Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Producer Lounge, episode 94.
We out here.
Here we are, baby.
Greendale, Colorado.
Yes, we're coming live from Greendale, Colorado, folks. This is our show about music production.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sit here and chat about it. We have thoughts throughout the week that happen as producers, and we're in a producer household.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts in the studio?
Yeah, we just tinker and think about stuff. Yeesh. And it comes out here. We decided to just fucking do it with you guys, because fucking why not?
Why not?
You know, all hang out together.
We know you love it. And we love it. We have fun.
So, that's basically
analyzer on the bottom this
what's
time.
happening. Yeah, I moved it down there. Folks, if you're not watching on YouTube, where the fuck you at?
Right, exactly.
Why was that?
Are you even listening to this?
Let me fix this up. So, how was everybody's week in the DAW?
In the doll.
In the DZ.
with
In the
David
D-O
Talbot.
double D.
How was your week, Dave?
Huh.
What'd you do this week?
I just been touching up that DMB tune. I think what stood out to me a lot is trying to figure out my drums, what level to have my drums at in the full, like, smashed up version of the tune.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm thinking I need to bring my drums down a little bit more often. Bring them a little bit quieter. They get their own
I could agree with that.
full set of treatment to make them a unit. And then they kind of just come down a little bit off of to where once you've smashed it, it's just like, a little bit under the limiter. They're just still sitting there a little bit under where the limiter is.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been
I'm toying around with it.
Okay. I could piggyback on that
Go
with
for
my
it.
week.
Yeah.
Similar-esque thing. I'm working on this drum and bass techno track thing. And yeah, having the drums, like if you mix it just to ear with your levels or whatever, oftentimes when you get it to your master limiter, you'll see your drums kind of peak above everything else. And you can go and like clip them and tailor them and stuff like that. And oftentimes, if you just bring them down to everything else and then push everything up, they seem quiet. So like toying around in there, trying to figure out how to like stack everything fully against the limiter. So like not like it's not like for example, current value, he does this really well, like all his tracks are just like this fucking brick, but the drums and the transients are there somehow, but they're like barely, like they're like just enough for you to like get it.
Right.
But like it's just this fucking the whole time. Which not necessarily I don't want to get to that point necessarily, but like figuring out how to maximize all those. It's
keeping all the
it's
sounds in there.
it's a
not
never-ending
stepping
battle.
on each other, and be squishable is a nice thing, which can be hard.
Yeah, I mean that's
Trying
kind
to
of
figure out the balance of the squish.
Dude, I can be pretty squishable.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
you would squish.
But as far as I know, from what I've been doing, it's like pre-clipping and limiting things on their way to your master, and then even on the master on this track, I have a multiband clipper thing going, so it's clipping the mids and the highs. The lows are passing right through.
Oh, cool.
And the mids and the highs are getting fairly aggressively soft clipped. They're not hard clipping in terms of the knee isn't at a brick wall. It's got a little bit of a curve, so they're getting clipped, but it's soft clipping.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that goes right into a distortion unit that kind of like sparkles back up all that highs kind of thing, or so it seems. kind of like breathes life back into that now kind of like more static high end that's got clipped, and then into a limiter that the limiter is like, if I don't push into the limiter at all of that clipping and the distortion unit, I'm still at like -6 on my master. So it's not even hitting the limiter at all. So then I just fucking either put a tool in front of it and crank into the limiter till I feel comfortable to push the limiter, or I just push the limiter. But the first limiter is in transparent mode, pretty fast attack-ish, like 0.5, which I think is half a milli. And then releases like 200 millis, I want to say. So like a fast-ish. And that one's slamming. It's doing like -5 reduction, -6. And then the second limiter doesn't tap it at all. It just sits there at the top. And it seems to sounds pretty sick. I think like in terms of like the crispiness, it's like exactly what I was like trying to go for. Like maybe I could cut back the high-end distortion unit just a skosh, but I kind of like the crispiness on the top.
You gotta love the high up crispies.
Yeah, because it makes it like you don't have to push. Like when you're DJing that live, it just sounds like it's pushing the PA a little bit, so it sounds more aggressive without having to be more aggressive.
I'm a big fan of that as well.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, make it buzz a little bit.
Right.
It makes me think of
that's a whole other topic, but
when Kritz was on the pod and something happened at his show or whatever, and then he just started like slamming everything.
So it just continued the vibe that was already happening, or what?
No, I think I don't remember the story exactly, but he was like
he was mad at them. Yeah,
he was mad at them because they kept being like dicks about something, and he was just like fucking cranked everything.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. That's pretty.
Fuck yeah, Kritz, you gotta stand up for yourself.
Yeah, big ups to that.
That's what's up. It's a good week too.
Yeah, how about you?
I've been having a fun week. I'm in my drum and bass phase now, like we were talking about. All pumped on that shit. And as of yesterday, I'm now in a pop phase, apparently. Want to start remixing a bunch of like pop acapellas. See what I can
Austin
do with that.
is phase fluid.
I like that you're phase fluid.
Yeah.
Like, I used to be like that hardcore, and I fucking love to see that you're still.
I know,
like,
I'm still, yeah.
You're still just like, I don't know, and I fucking love it. Just as long as you like can pick a vibe for the song and stick with that instead of having like the song go from drum and bass to this, like that's too much. But if you can just like make a song that is one of those songs,
It's just
and
in the
then move
vein.
on,
Yeah.
like I think that's healthy.
Yeah, and it's funny because like at the beginning of the year or whatever, I said one of my New Year's resolutions was like I'm just gonna start focusing on bass music like more.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Funny.
and actually I have been. I have like focused way more just on that.
Drum and bass is bass music.
Yeah, totally. But here and there, I just
kind of bass music.
Yeah, right.
Depends on the speed rave.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I can't help it because a lot of days like I don't want to like work on the EP I'm working on or work on the style. Like I was hyped on fucking Nightcore and all those like classic house songs I've been playing, like the Scooter song, Logical song, and all those like bass hunter shit. And I was just like, that'd be kind of fun. I've never done that before, might as well. And the track like actually turned out.
Right, it's pretty cool.
All right, it's a fun one.
We're gonna fucking play it.
Let's go.
I'm stoked.
Oh yeah.
Oh, a little plug real quick. March 2nd, ladies and gentlemen.
If you're in Denver, March 2nd, go to Steam at Bar Standard. We'll see you there. We're not going to reveal who we are, though. You can find out. So, well, that's dope. You said you had a tip of the week concerning a note you saw?
Yeah.
What do you got?
I wrote this down last week. High-end clarity is the note.
Okay.
Something you brought up on one of my tracks was like maybe just focus on like the high end a little bit more. There's a lot of elements happening. Like you could be more aware of like which one do you want to be the highest crispy, which one do you want to be like the main 4K area, whatever kind of thing. When you guys do this, do you have like literally just one sound that's like 10K and above gets all the love, or does it like do you have like automation to like give a sound its room when it needs to? How do you guys approach high-end clarity?
I think I put it there if I want it there.
That's a
But-
good sentence right there.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
that
fair.
kind of is
that
it.
basically sums it up.
I don't overanalyze it.
Funny.
I don't overanalyze it. But we were analyzing it today in a conversation.
Correct. And I'm
And
glad
we have a thought on that.
I'm glad
Which I think Caleb should.
I'm glad
do.
that it goes into this. But yeah,
Perfect.
once you figure out what you want up there, it's as easy as that. It's as easy as just putting what you want
Right.
on the high end. But a lot of years as you're producing and figuring all this out, like you don't know what you want up there, and you want a bunch of shit. Like it's like hard to choose and hard to
It's
think
a fun
think
area
about.
to have something in.
Yeah.
That sizzle.
Right, but you're not thinking about it that way. Like
Right.
once you've produced for many, many years, then you're like, yes, of course, all these things are this, and then this is bright. You know, it's just like it's a part of the workflow.
Part of the
almost.
workflow, yeah.
But a couple ways to help you focus on your high end, and they're not one-trick ponies. Each one's going to work for like a different song and all that kind of stuff. But just a couple things that come to mind. Apparently, I'm getting
Damn.
Oh, it wasn't me for
Dang.
once.
Oh, it's potential spam. I love Mr. Spam.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, he's DJing next week, right?
If only it was for sure spam.
DJ Spam.
I like for sure spam
All right.
because like spam is already kind of like, what is it? You know, I don't need like maybe it's what is it? Like that's a one step more that I don't want.
Right.
You know, just give me actually spam. Speaking of which, super side note: take spam, you shred it, and then you add egg,
Ew.
and then no, and then seasoning. Mash it into a ground, make patties out of that bitch, smash spam burgers.
Spam burgers?
Oh, what? Yes, son, yes. Anyways,
I've never had spam, so I can't say. But
really?
Sounds that weird.
Could you layer it as a
spam on
patty?
eggs? Yeah, you could do like beef and then spam too.
Spags.
But yeah, spam on eggs. Spam and eggs and spam. That's a Monty Python reference. Moving on.
Very nice.
So
Showing your age.
one of the back to high-end clarity methods.
Indeed.
So one method is which I've been toying with currently, is most everything gets low passed. Like kind of
like what, 7K, 10K?
kind of the 7K rule,
7K rule.
but it's with a different like head space. Like you do, kind of you tailor it 7 to 10K. Like don't really let anything go above 10K for the most part, except like maybe one or two things. Like it depends. Like let them sparkle a little bit, but like you don't want anything aggressive up there for this kind of thought process to work. And then once you get to the actual mix stage and in your pre-master where you have everything grouped and glued together, that's where you start injecting high-end air. And by air, I mean like 13K and above. Like you do not fuck with anything around 10K. You don't really like fuck with anything around 8K. Like maybe you push it back to 10K, like the
and let it bleed
tilt
in,
kind of
yeah.
comes in around 10K or
Right.
something like that. But you're really looking for that top end air.
Doing a
And-
bit of a shelf.
Yeah, and that is going to grab anything that is there and really like bring it right to the front, which in my case seems to brighten stuff up without like
It is nice because
frailing
you're
it.
not just like smashing them with all the
right.
clipping that you might be doing in the process. Like some of the highs you want it, but like having some dynamics in those high end things could be nice.
Plus, what I found out in this process along the way, if you low pass something and then clip it, you're going to get a little bit of high end back.
Right.
Like, as you clip that mid range of say a synth or a stab, as you clip that mid range, it's going to give you a little bit of that high end back that you had passed. So that's what gets brought back up, which you can then tailor that. You can clip it before,
Yep.
the low pass and stuff like that. But that's one way that I've been toying.
Sick.
Another way is to be gentle on them, just in general, and not like clipping too hard. Still like paying attention, like trying to like make sure there's nothing super transient heavy up there.
Right.
Because that's one of the big things. Like you don't want a snare that's just bright as fucking day. Like you think you want it, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
When that's super loud, that's ear bleeding. No matter how quiet you get it, it's like fucking that whip. Yeah.
It's that
It doesn't need to be as bright as they think it is.
no.
So think about that across the board, but then also doing a tilt on your pre-master. So you tilt the lows down and the highs up.
Yeah.
That's kind of a similar thing, but it's going to bring more of your highs. You're not just going to pull the air up. You're pulling, 500 and up on a little bit of a
A
tilt.
little gradual
Right.
deal.
And then, yes, there's the method of nothing really lives up there besides like 2 or 3 things.
Right.
And when that tambourine comes in, that's all super, like it doesn't even almost need to be clipped if it's the only thing that plays up there at that moment. Or even really in the song, it doesn't have to be that loud because it's so contrasting to everything. You just fucking have a tambourine go and it's all bright.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the contrast will do the work for you.
Yeah. If you have a minimal track and most of it is kind of dark, one thing is playing at a time. Yeah. Your high end is free if it's just the tambourine that hits there.
Right.
Or just your snare or whatever.
Yeah. Also, if you have like some grouped reverb situation happening for depth within your tune, you're going to get a bunch of high end back in those, perhaps. At least in the saturating of it in the pre-master.
Which that's also going to just cause shit to be bright.
And you're going to create that like airy environment in that area.
Because it is nice. It is easy to go overboard with the high end.
So easy.
It's super easy. And then like darken it up too much because you're like, oh, it always gets distorted. It's like, well, it's in between where you are.
Yeah, that's literally what I did earlier on the track. I sent it into a feedback stream. And right before that, I was like hearing the whispers of Dave, like, control your high end. Make sure what is there needs to be there. And I went through and like, I just made everything like way too dark except the one thing I wanted, and I sent it in. And it still sounded fine, but like the dude definitely like said something about it. And he didn't say exactly what was like too dark, but he was like, yeah, the track just seems like it could have more like clarity in the high end or brightness in the high end. Like, see if you can just pump some shit up. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do. Just less of that.
I just went too far.
Yeah. Just went
that
too
is
hard.
so easy to do.
It's so easy to do. Sometimes it's a decibel.
Right.
Like it's real fucking hairy, especially once everything's pushed. It's like super fucking hairy.
Dude, right?
Like you could spend all day on your mix bus or pre-master, whatever you want to call it, with like EQ after EQ after EQ of just like minor adjustments in the high end. Just like, oh, let's just shelf it a little bit. Oh no, let's bell that down. Oh, let's just kind of like push the 4K. Oh, let's bring the 5K down, and just like just spend all day. Which could segue into another topic that I have for today.
Okay, send it.
If you guys are satisfied with high end clarity,
I'm happy.
Satisfied.
I got some answers.
Okay, is levels are king. Volume is number one important thing. I was listening to UBK. Shout out UBK Happy Fun Time Hour. Gregory Scott and Nathan Daniel. The Dons. If you don't know what that is, folks, it's a production podcast, a mix engineer podcast, I guess, more so. Focus on like bands and stuff, but they know so much about like EQ just alone. Just like when they're talking about like, well, 1K is really for this, and like 10K is your sparkle, and like 100K is all your weight. And like, they'll just talk for hours about EQ, and it's fucking amazing.
Gotta love that 100K weight, dude.
I just love the way they talk about it, because you're like, oh, it is. And you're like driving, you're like, fuck, I wish I had an EQ on me right now. Like, that's the best.
You can visualize, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get home and just
I know.
make that.
But basically, he was talking about you need to start with just like leveling. Like once you get to the mix stage and you're satisfied with the arrangement of your track, which we've talked about this before with your style of like leveling everything up to 0,
Right.
and then tailoring everything back down, and that is basically leveling, and that alone can get you like 80% of the way on a mix, like so close, like just the volumes of things is going to give you depth. It's going to give you like, it's not going to give you width necessarily, but like that depends on like the arrangement, I guess, but it's going to give you so much shit.
I honestly usually don't have a ton to do after that. Once I level things, I'm kind of like, interesting. It sounds fucking
at that point. It's ear candy.
Loud.
It's ear candy and automation for me after that. Like I'm automating compressor thresholds to squeeze things.
Right.
I'm automating width. I'm automating volume of things in and out. Like, because that's another thing they preach on that podcast to death is levels and automation. Because that's where all the mood comes from. When things and for people who don't understand what they mean by automation is moving the faders in a track. So they're bringing guitars in and then bringing the backup guitars in for just a moment, then bringing them back and like moving shit around constantly.
Just all manually.
Right. So you got to think about that in your track too. Even though you're just making bass house or whatever the fuck, like you got to think of things fucking coming and going and moving around.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get all the sauce.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's only one thing moving or two. But that thing like fading away with another thing kind of coming in through a filter, like that shit's huge.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to do that in the arrangement phase. That can be in the mix phase because it's going to make all the fucking sauce start gluing and you're going to figure out where empty pockets are and like where things are too built up upon because you're like, I can't move things out of the way. So things just have to go, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and then you can look, you can stare up at it.
What's up, Jet?
What's up, Jet?
Jet in the building.
Just sit there and do your little nitpicking of like, okay, bass sound hits here.
Right.
I don't need this sub to happen because the kick's already there.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right.
You know, that kind of pulling things out. That's like such a fun part for me.
Yeah.
As I'm pulling it out, I'm like, ooh. It just gets like fucking a little danker as it gets
it starts getting an organic feel as you start thinning and filling and thinning and filling. Like it starts getting more of an identity.
It gets an identity,
As opposed to
like matures
as opposed to just like and now here's the bridge. And here's this moment. And here we go. It's like always things are kind of coming and going and it helps the transitions too. Like you can kind of just like if you have all the transitions kind of blocked out and they're all pretty like rigid, if you just go through and start automating volumes and moods and like swinging the mood around throughout the track, like these hi-hats go away and new ones come in and then these ones come right back and like little fucking jumpy moments and shit. They're huge.
I love those little moments so much. I have
huge.
so much fun playing with those moments. It's so good.
Same. I'll spend forever on a fill.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Yeah, that's something that was interesting about the track I was working on is the vocals, just the acapella alone. You can see like the intro, it's like tight and sits like down here a little bit, and then the verse comes in and it's a little bit bigger, and then the chorus comes in, and then now there's like a bunch of stereo harmonies going on, but then they drop out for a second. Like just in the vocals alone, like there's so much like movement and life. It's like, you can go far with that. You can go really far with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, levels are fucking huge. Levels and automation.
Levels are sweet.
Levels are sweet, dude.
I didn't realize they were chill like that.
Jet has a question about music marketing.
It's not it's not there yet.
Okay.
There is no question.
I'm going to read it anyways in my classic English accent. I've been trying to promote my new single that I've released, and I'm trying to promote that song on TikTok and Instagram. Whenever I promote that song, the video only reaches below 280 views.
Yeah, this is a
That's
tough
all.
one.
Well,
This is a classic Jet question right
Classic
here.
Jet.
it's a kind of a classic question for a lot of people.
It is. Yeah, I think about this a lot.
And for me, he says, and I really want to make that video above 200. Well, yeah, I mean, 281 views would be the sauce.
Yeah, true. True. 281 is a magic
281.
number.
You basically made it.
So we're not trying to brag on you. We're just joshing.
We're just playing.
So I think there's a bigger thing here, which is you shouldn't be really worried about social media and promoting a single at the moment. I don't think.
Yes.
If you've been producing for 10 years and you've like talked to a lot of people online and sent them tracks and had feedback, and you've like worked real hard and you're getting closer and you know people through Discords or the internet or whatever, you're starting to meet like other songwriters and you start working with them and stuff like that. Then when you release a single, it's going to automatically get more than 280 views because you're going to be able to promote it on all those Discord channels, have a bunch of internet friends blast it out too. And you're just going to have a better reach organically because you've put in the work behind the scenes to get there.
Right.
Like when you're just alone in your basement
Yeah.
and you just put out a random video and you're like hashtag this, like the algorithm doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's just not going to care.
Every artist fucking wants their TikTok to blow up and start a whole trend, and then your song gets annihilated by every TikTok user, you know. But that should not be the goal, is to try and like blow up on TikTok. Like I
Right.
feel like the majority of people who try that are just like
it's like winning. It's like winning the lottery.
It's like winning the lottery, yeah. Unless you're like Mr. Beast and you've been practicing for 18 years on like the algorithm and how to just make a
Right.
good video that actually.
But at that point, you're not a musician. You're a video maker.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so like to shorten it, be an artist first, then focus on videos later.
Yeah,
Because the people who have dope videos are already artists.
yeah. Make the sickest music you possibly can.
Restraint has a question as well. Got a question for you about levels. When do you like to use different types of measurements for levels, i.e., when do you prefer to use peak RMS or LUFS or LUFS?
I only go off LUFS, John.
That's interesting.
All I look at.
I've only very recently gotten little peak meters that are RMS, and I've been trying to like translate what's happening to them, but I'm still a newbie, so they're just kind of there for fun. At this point, I'm not like, I haven't done enough mixes with them there to really have a reference point with where I want them to, where I want to see them and stuff like that. So usually, it's peak in terms of looking at my Pro Q3 for my analyzer, basically, and what my peaks are there in terms of where the fundamental is to the top end, my slope and all that shit. Because I don't like putting a slope on the EQ. I like having it slopeless, and I like to just train my face to see what the slope should be as according to what I'm hearing, so I can just translate that correctly, regardless of EQ regardless of analyzer. And then LUFS when it comes to
Mastering.
just limiting, but yeah, like but the mastering phase, because that's where I'm monitoring the LUFS. Most of the time, if I'm limiting like my kick drum, I'm not looking at what the LUFS are.
Right.
But like when I have it on the master, yes,
That would be funny. I don't think I've ever checked like what LUFS do my kick hit, like pre-master.
Yeah, I don't, because
I've looked at it before, but like
it's
whatever.
also
Yeah.
it's in a floating point at that point, because like I could be
pre-master, yeah.
I could be holding down Alt and I'm dragging it up, and it could say -13, but it's pulled down -10. So it's like, what is it actually?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's adding a negative whatever it showed up as smashed to
Right. You could do some math, but
at whatever level.
no,
like,
I know.
What
You're good, Jet. I'm not roasting you either.
what
Yeah, you're good, Jet.
roasting? What did he
It's
say
all-
something?
it's all
It seemed
love.
like all sweet comments from Jet.
Yeah, he seems fine.
All right.
I don't think you're
I didn't
roasting
see
us
any
at all.
roast like things at all.
I'm offended, Jet. I'm offended right now.
Oh, subscribers here
Sitting
are
on me.
69. Very nice. Very nice. Sweet, dude.
Oh, that is sweet.
That's sweet.
See your new thing today?
Hang on, everybody, give me one of these
Sick,
so
dude.
I can use it for the card.
Oh, wait, I'll get it.
No,
in a
look
clear
at the
spot.
cam. Or don't. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here, let me put a mark.
As far as as far such a nerd. Such a fucking nerd.
Giant transient.
As far
somewhere.
as looking at levels goes, I look at levels before I do a mix. I will push everything to 0 just to make sure that like it has gotten its proper amount of squishing. So I have sturdy sounds that can be like turned down and still exist.
Right.
Basically, because the more squished you got it, you turn it down, it kind of just like it's just
Right,
a
you're-
fucking chonker.
You're making
sitting
you're
there.
making the sounds less dynamic,
Yes.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean the song's gonna be less dynamic.
No.
But the sounds themselves, nice and squished. Yes.
Yeah. So I will look at levels at that point, and I just want it to hit the limiter. I'm not actually paying attention to like luffs or
Oh, sure.
whatever. I just want to make sure. I basically just go as far as I can until it starts to not sound good. A lot of the time, I'm just like, how much can I push it before it starts to
Hilarious.
die?
I mean,
you know,
if that's
and
the
then
case,
bring it
then
back.
yeah, if that's the case, if you do that for every sound, then yeah, you could like not even hit a limiter on your master, and it's like -5. And you're like, sick.
I basically do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Fucking hilarious.
and then
If it gets results, it doesn't fucking matter, dude.
right.
Fucking matter. Like, it's sick. Theoretically, it makes sense. Like it just, yeah.
And then what I was thinking with your what was it earlier? It was just a side conversation we were having, but if you bring your levels in, like you're mixing in this situation, you have all your shit maxed out, and then you focus on, okay, what's my drums and my bass first, get those sitting right, and then you pick a back sound. What is the furthest back thing? That's not just like an atmosphere, you know? Like, what's the furthest back
Yeah, we
thing?
were talking about this.
And then you try and fit everything between those two things. So you just have to figure out initially, here's the loud, and then here's the super quiet, and then let me figure out how to distribute things in between that volume-wise.
Yeah. Here's the
Because I
range
feel
can
like
sit
the
in.
range is the hard part to figure out. Like,
Yeah.
how big of a range should I have? Should it be fucking 30 decibels or should it be 10 or 5? You know, between the back and the front.
Right. And I think in that conversation, we talked about both. We talked about doing that where you pick a front and a back, and then you also do a top bottom in terms of level. Like what's the quietest, what's the loudest,
Right.
and then you can so that it kind of you figure out where the box is.
Yes.
But further on that is the upward mix approach,
Right.
which is the opposite of yours, where you bring everything to level loud, and then you turn things down to what you want. Where the other one, you start with them all, you bring them up to whatever you would do normally, but then you turn them all down.
Right.
And then you just bring in the loud things.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, you bring in like, this is the loudest thing. All right, this is the next loudest thing. And then you know where the top is.
Yeah.
So then you can slowly bring everything in towards the bottom and build from the top down kind of thing, which is weird. It's not bad or
It's
good. It's just
almost
different.
the same thing.
It's
that I
almost.
do.
It's, oh, okay.
Like, I don't have everything playing as I'm adding
Right.
things in. I'll just solo like, okay, I want to get my kick and my basses sitting in a nice spot together.
Right.
Solo those, sit them, and then go from there and start building around it. You
Right.
know, figure out snares and the
Yep,
rest of the
that's the-
tops, and then add things as I go. But in no situation am I fading it in or coming from max and down. I usually
Right.
take a guess.
Sure.
At first, I'm like, it's probably about here, and then just turn it on and see if it sounds good.
Yeah, I'll usually
Quick adjust.
it goes from like arrangement mode to mix mode real quick. It'll just be like a
Right.
matter of a couple seconds, and I'm like, oh, cool, we're ready. And then I just basically start at the drums,
Nice.
and I have a limiter and a compressor on the drums, so I can just go to that limiter, solo the drums real quick, and just like push them up to the limiter, do the things I need to do, so I know that they're all just a fucking block. Pull up my master limiter, see where they're hitting, unsolo them, and then build everything around the drums. Basically,
That's the move.
that's
Makes sense.
basically what happens.
It's a move, buddy.
Jet says, I use a plugin called Pink by Credulent Audio just to balance my levels properly. I always use
it's
that
like a pink
plugin as a
noise plugin,
guideline.
huh?
Decision making is one of the things you do whenever you're making. Decision making is one of the things you do whenever you're making a track. Quick note for you: decision making is something you do every second of every day in everything.
Not me,
also-
bro. I'm above that. I'm above decisions.
Dude,
wherever the mouse is.
Predestination, dude.
Predetermination, man. I don't have free will.
Yeah.
What
Who needs it?
the
Yeah,
fuck
you
is
can't.
this? God damn it!
Jordan Peterson over here, or Sam Harris. Whichever one. Or I think both. I don't know.
It's possible.
Hang on,
Yeah.
guys. This is I don't know why.
I haven't heard of Pink though. Chad, that's interesting. I'm assuming it's based off of like a pink noise kind of thing, and it just EQ balances to be more like pink noise.
There we go. Okay.
Dude, the illusion is now forever ruined. No one knew it was
I would say don't use this.
really.
And here's why. It's a giant crutch.
He
And
also hates the color pink.
it's just going to make your song sound bland.
Lame.
Like if you like click a random radio or playlist on Spotify, like the mixes are all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're not, yes, in
Oh,
terms of
yeah.
like loudness, they're generally the same, but also if you have the loudness meter thing or match loudness in
yeah, like
Spotify,
normalize.
yeah, it's just going to
gain
play
or
every
whatever.
single one the same level.
Right.
So that's going to give you a misinterpretation of what's happening. But even in electronic music and pop, like shit's different song to song. It's what the song wants. Like I can see this giving you an idea of where things need to go, and then you turn it off and manually put things there. But like I don't think you should have this like on your master. That's or whatever, or however it
That
works.
seems like a lot.
I don't think it's a good
Yeah.
idea. It's going to teach you to make really generic mixes, and then you're not going to get anywhere you want
What
to go.
is it doing? -6 dB.
Generates pink noise to use as a reference,
Oh.
which is fine. But like, if you follow too much of
That's kinda
anybody's reference, yeah, it's fine to start ish, but move along as quickly as possible.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it might be even a nice thing just to toss on there just to see, is there anything that's just like massively showing up? You know? Just like
Right.
for a quick check.
Is it
You
free?
throw it on
Oh,
and then you just
I mean, you could just
you see
you can
if
splice
something.
pink noise and then just throw it in your track.
Oh yeah, that's what I would
exactly
do.
yeah.
That's what
Um,
for sure.
But it is free. But I would say just learn how to you got to train your ears. It just takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
2, learn how to read an EQ, a visual, or what is this called?
Graphic.
Graphic EQ, with no slope. So here, nope, this one.
Pro Q3
This
here.
has as a tilt. I'm going to put that to 0. Now, in general, pink noise is from like 20 hertz, I think it is, or 30 or whatever.
It's got to be like pink noise, like right in serum or something, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to like play pink,
Right,
pink
that's fair.
noise right now.
That's fair. It's not the best podcast
Right.
content.
Or maybe it's from 20 hertz to 20K. In general, it's like a 30 decibel drop off. In my brain, I keep it at 30 hertz is at null, whatever that may be, -5 or whatever, or 0, and then your 10K is at -30. And you
If
just
you're
keep
at 0,
and you just keep
it's at
that slope.
-30.
Or your 10K is at 0?
My 20 to 30K, yeah, my fundamental, so my sub or my kick or whatever is hitting 0 down here, and then my high-end hi-hats at 10K are hitting -30. And that is...
Doesn't that say positive on the right side?
No, it says negative.
No.
Well, if you go above that, though.
It goes to 0.
Oh, that's 0 up there.
Yeah.
This is...
Oh, right.
This shows you the strength of your
I see.
movements.
0 to 30.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
right. Yeah,
and so I just generally, that's just what I look at all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
As a general rule, my sub, once I'm pushing everything to the maximum, my sub is hitting 0 on a graphic EQ, and my hi-hats are dancing around -30.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mix dependent, they might be -30 or 85 because it's a slightly darker mix. Or whatever. Like, it's all kind of like whatever. And then, like, in between here, it might dip and then come back and, like, have a little bit of a shelf and come up or whatever. Like, but in general, it's going to follow that slope because that's what the pink noise slope is, basically that to some degree.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I would use this plugin for, is just to, like, reference that till you have that in your brain, and then you don't need this thing anymore, and you just go by your ears because you're trying to train your ears.
It's a trainer
Mm-hmm.
device.
Yeah. Use your ears, not your eyes.
Yeah, and then later, sure. I would enjoy throwing that on my pre-master and just being like, is there anything that I'm hearing just like obviously sticking out right now?
Right.
And then
Or
just check a couple spots.
Yeah.
That would be kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever
I'd be
done
interested
anything
in
like
it.
that? Yeah.
And then maybe make some adjustments accordingly and see if you
if it's
get
better
benefit
or worse. Yeah.
Sure.
out of it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's always the
I just
thing
don't
is,
think you want to like use it to set your levels as like a
Right.
this is
like a
the
main
way
thing. Yeah. Got to be careful of those.
Yeah, some
type
things are
of
going to be want to be
methods.
quieter.
Yeah, it's
Some
so
things-
song dependent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
And as you smash things,
I started
things
with pink noise
change.
all the time. I fucking use that all the time.
totally. I've used pink noise for reference many a time.
Yeah. I haven't for a few years, but yeah, back in the day when I first found out about it, I was definitely like, this is how it's done. I was like,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
All you want as you're growing is just like the method.
Yeah, I know, right?
yeah,
You're
I
like,
know?
what is
You're
that
like,
one
just
thing?
tell me the thing I have to do.
Yeah.
I'll do the thing.
Which
like,
is
I'm
just-
so annoyed that I can't just do it.
It's just a bunch of things.
It's
that's
so
that's
many
the thing.
things.
So it's a mountain of information.
It's
yeah.
just a bunch of
Yes.
things.
And you
yeah.
need to have like a decent understanding of at least all of it to get a good mix. When you actually understand all of
Yeah.
it, like then you're sauce.
Right. Yeah.
Then you're a John of
Yeah.
the world.
There's a lot to pay attention to,
noisy
but
guy.
also once you know it all, there's really not a lot to pay attention to.
I know, right? Yeah.
You just gotta.
Because you already know it. You just abide.
Right.
That's one funny thing is like when you start learning all these things, then you almost or like when you almost feel like sometimes you have to implement it just because you know a thing.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
You almost overproduce, like that's where that classic thing comes from.
Right.
You just gotta trust your ears.
When sometimes all you need is the correct levels
Yeah.
Hey.
and a little bit of glue compressing on the groups, and then a distortion unit on your mix bus, and then a limiter on your master.
There you go.
And next thing you know, your track sounds sick. Decision making is one of my things that you do when you're making a track. And then after that, I'm going to arrange the levels a little bit. Yeah, okay, so after you use the pink noise word. Fucking tight.
Yeah. Love it, Jet. Use the pink noise trick. It's a classic episode on UBK
It is.
where Gregory is talking about the pink noise trick, which he had just learned about, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I
He
think you're
seemed to
right.
be more recently aware of it and pumped on it at
Whoa.
that time.
Really?
Yeah.
And this guy's been deep in it for a pretty good while before that,
Yeah.
I feel like. So it was a funny thing. And then I think the other guy was kind of like, eh.
Right.
He was like, yeah,
whatever.
I guess.
I think it's
Whatever.
because Nathan had like mixes for a lot of people, and Gregory doesn't like to mix for people. he doesn't want to worry about clients. He sells dope ass like distortion units and
Right.
plugins and
Oh,
shit. So
okay.
he
Yeah, I was
doesn't-
gonna say, how does he?
he doesn't have to mix for people.
He has a hardware company.
Yeah.
He
Ho-
makes
hardware
compressors.
hardware and such
And EQs.
software called Kush Audio. Shout out Kush
big
Audio. I wish I had them.
Yeah.
They're sick. I'd love the UBK
That Kush.
one.
A good
I fucking love to use
I
that
would love that too.
compressor.
Sponsor us.
Dude, Kush Audio.
With-
Oh my god.
Sponsor us
Shout
with
out.
a couple compressors, baby. Come on, baby.
We'll put one right here, right center stage.
We might need 3 or 4 for the podcast, actually.
Yeah.
No. Two's good.
2 is fine.
Just so we have a stereo situation. Unless it is stereo, then 1. It's fine. Let's get it going, Gregory.
Yep. Shout out Gregor Scott.
I've got one more question for you guys.
Okay.
Something I've been playing with lately. I've been doing a lot of like respaces in my intro, and something I noticed so let's say to just make one real quick, I would just do like a bunch of unison and serum, give it a filter, so everything is kind of detuned and kind of phasing.
Oh, saw wave?
Yeah, we'll say a saw wave. The low end is doing, waves all over the place, super, super dynamic, right? And it sounds kind of nice. It has life. I like the idea of it not being like perfectly stagnant, but a lot of the time I feel like it's just way, way too all over the place. So a couple of moves I've been playing with is in Serum, they have the wavetable editor. You can just take out the fundamental and then replace it with your little sub oscillator
Right.
and get a perfect sign. But then it sounds a little out of place.
Right.
Right? It doesn't have enough movement. You can like clearly hear, okay, well, my sub it's literally just,
Anything you do is going to cause issues like that.
right?
Like even if you were to use Faceplant and give like the high end and the low end
Like
their
a
own 2 Reeses,
audio
basically.
rate.
Mhm.
You could even like try and match it with like some sort of audio rate
Yeah, but
modulation.
if-
so
like
it has
tremolo?
the wobble,
Right?
the exact wobble that you're getting from the Reese or like the close.
Oh, how would
Yeah,
you
that's
figure that
that's
out?
one
Could
way
do
to think
something like
about it.
Yeah. Because I want to be able to have that like dynamic control where it's still like it's doing the phasing bits, but like
Here.
yeah, I don't know how to approach it. Like
Let's
I've
just-
tried making an LFO.
My
Where you have a
answer in my
trim
head
control.
is you do 2 saw waves and you offset them at the correct amount to get your low end fucking wobble thing. And then if you want to do a massive amount of unison,
Excuse me.
if you
Okay, I
want
was
if
like-
you want to do a massive amount of unison at that point, then use that as a separate layer and use the 2 saw waves specific one as your main low end piece, because you can get it with just 2. You can kind of get it to be just a wobbly bass.
Yeah, a little more controlled. It's not like all
Yeah.
over the place. That's a good idea. That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Caleb's,
and in
Caleb's
Serum,
sauce on the Reese's though, so
right? Caleb knows his Reese's. In Serum, in the Matrix
I like
control,
my Reese's Pieces, yeah.
you can actually control. You can turn the stereo from the unison down to 0. So that might be the way to do it.
So
Totally. Or what Caleb's doing right now is probably the better.
Will you change that skin?
God,
It hurts my feelings.
do a Promethean.
I still hate this one, but it's way
Really?
better.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate it too.
Okay, thank God.
I thought you would like it.
No, it's almost there. That it's a weird color scheme.
Okay, so you do
Wow, default. Huh?
this. You do this. No, I just put it to this.
No, I meant the skin.
Yeah, that's. I only have 3. Fuck you. We're going back to 1990s.
Hey,
Hey,
you
same
did
thing.
Dumbass.
You did that.
You did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't help but continue. Okay, so you have a saw wave, and you crank up the unison, and to what? To what now?
So yeah, whatever amount is fine. Conceptually, are you? So now, yeah, filter it, cut it, so you just get a dark little guy. So one of the ways. Do you want me to say one of the ways I was saying,
Yeah,
or are you just
yeah.
saying? Okay,
Or no. Just tell me the initial patch that causes
that would
issues.
be the initial.
Just this?
Yeah, we'll just say that.
This is your Reese.
Pretty much.
This isn't a Reese though.
Is it not?
No, you need a second thing phasing this one.
Well, that's what the unison's doing.
Yeah, the unison is doing that. It
Kind of in like a Kmart way.
Yeah, it's not. It's
Like,
not great.
Just add a
Great
second
value, Reese.
Just add a second oscillator.
Yeah,
and
but then
fucking
you also
detune that
then you
shit.
don't get width.
Just do them both. What are you talking about?
But if you do that, you don't even hear the second oscillator because there's so much unison and detune already happening that one like doesn't do shit. I feel like.
I feel like you haven't messed around with this enough.
Man, there's not enough controls with
First-
Serum. I'm looking around like, man, I can't do the thing I would do in phase plant.
Yeah, what is that? Here we go.
Yeah. Nice.
Let's do a classic. Neither of them play the root note.
Nice. Little up down.
Oops.
Okay, so you have one
And it's a
with
Reese.
unison.
Let's go.
Yeah, you got one with unison, and then you have one regular, straightforward mono saw wave, and then you're offsetting them by however much.
Yeah, one's going
20
negative 28
something.
cents. One's going positive
Yeah.
28 cents. So
Yeah,
neither of them
exactly.
playing the root note. They're both straddling it.
Right. Exactly. And then what I would think is that that unisoned out saw wave is probably just kind of taking the
think you
movement
turn the
away
unison
from
off.
the low end. You know? Like the low end is getting less of the like really pumpy wobble.
Let's see. So we have a multiband on here, and we're just soloing the bottom end, basically.
Yep.
Let's do like 200.
Yeah.
But you can. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to mono.
Can you like high pass can you like high pass your unison?
So that's what I was saying about going into the wavetable and taking out the
Right,
fundamental.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Fundamental.
But now
Boom.
it's not going to wobble it.
So now that's what I was saying. Like, how do you give it that natural wobble? I've been playing around. If you add the sub oscillator, just add one, and then an LFO to the volume, and you can just create like a random shape.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, then you have at least complete control over the dynamics.
You
of
could,
it.
you could do one side that is the unisoned out one, and then the other side you just do a unison of two and make sure that it's mono, and then you can get your low end from that. But at that point, you might as well just use a sine wave for the low end one.
Right. Well, most of the time, like, unless you're making like a crazy like evolving like something like this that's just like fucking blowing up, and you're fucking noisia. Like as far as I'm concerned, a REESE is fucking nice and simple.
with a consistent.
No, it's still like
phase.
it's still fucking. No, the phase movement is why it's a REESE.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you don't have like, it's just a sine wave, and it's specifically supposed to be blasted with your resonance,
Really, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
so you get a nice little fucking.
The resonance
Interesting.
really helps that movement.
What is that
like,
doing though? If
shine.
they're just sine waves, isn't that just turning it up?
Yeah, but it's turning up that certain. Every time it phases into that cue, it's gonna.
Oh,
so
because
it's
they're
gonna-
slightly two different.
Right, and it's gonna
Oh.
unphase one and phase the other. So once you find the sweet
Interesting.
spot, basically.
Nice.
And then after this, then you can like distort it, I guess, if you want. But like, I'm not a big fan of just like a loud, like fucking
Full
like,
spectrum.
yeah, they're not like my favorite sound. Like, I'd much rather, if I was gonna do this, I would kill that kind of phasing.
Okay.
Just have your cool bass sound, and then add a volume shaper of some kind. And then just automate this to a key,
Yeah, do volume.
because I think that sounds cooler as a fucking full spectrum loud sound.
Yeah. That's actually a fair point. Use volume automation to give you your wobble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find that's a lot of the times that
Then you
is
make
a
it
better option. And I'll do a little bit of both. I will do that, and then I'll do filter movement a lot of the time too to try and give it. But now we're not reesing.
Right,
Really.
right, correct.
Now we're wubbing.
Now I'm wubbing a little bit.
Right.
But doing a combo is the move.
Right.
It's sweet.
Right.
Combos
But
are
I think you can get away with what you're trying to do, but you just have to figure out what the level is between the two oscillators where it makes it saucy, and then put a multi-band dynamics on there that's not doing anything just to split it, and then on your low band just mono the bass so that tightens up, but it's still gonna phase, it's still gonna do its thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a pick your poison.
It really is, I guess.
Right. I don't think there's no.
How would you like to deal with this? There's quite a few ways, obviously.
Yeah, we just gave you a bunch. There you go. Go play, everyone.
Yeah, if I were you, I would just sit there and figure out the balance between the two oscillators, one that has some unison, one that doesn't, and then both of them being out of tune, so you get that matching, and then also put it in mono so you don't have any poor demento-ness happening.
Right.
Obviously, though, but sometimes you forget. And you're like, what's happening? And then you realize.
I know, right?
Shit.
Yeah.
Shit. It's the end of the episode. Fuck.
Oh my God, just like that.
Oh my gosh. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thanks for being here. This was a fun one.
Thanks for coming, Jet.
Jet.
Shout out, Jet.
Fucking love to
Shout
see
out,
it.
Restraint.
Restraint.
Big
Love to
shout
see
out.
you. Thanks for
dogs in
the
chat.
thanks for the fun questions, guys. Guys, come in here and ask us questions.
Yeah.
This is the shit.
Ask away. Ask as many questions as your heart desires.
Also, like we should have said at the beginning of the hour, hit that sub button. Give it a smash.
Smash it. Annihilate it.
Always 400.
And we will see you guys next week. We love you guys. Keep cranking away. Remember, levels will get you 80% of the way there. Or so I've heard. I'm no expert. We're on this journey together. We'll see you guys then. Always400.com.